The news of the day, a worldview from CNN.
I'm Bernard Shaw in Atlanta. Packing up, heading home. The U.S. budget stalemate forces hundreds of thousands of federal workers to take some time off.
I'm Hilary Bowker in London. War games in Egypt send a not-so-subtle message to Iraq's Saddam Hussein. And the shuttle Atlantis moves in for a tricky coupling with the space station Mir.
A budget deadlock in Washington has forced much of the United States government to shut down. Hundreds of thousands of government workers across the country reported to work Tuesday only to be sent home. How did a budget dispute grow into a budget crisis? And what impact, if any, will the shutdown have overseas? CNN's Claire Shipman reports.
In Washington, it seems a standoff of epic proportion. Federal workers sent home because the government has technically run out of money. The country's leaders holding meetings late into the night, each side claiming the moral high ground.
What we have said is that we cannot continue to do business as usual with Washington borrowing money from our children and grandchildren.
But how is all this playing beyond America's borders?
It's been very difficult indeed to explain the budget crisis to a British audience, not least because the language of continuing resolution and debt ceiling is not language we understand in Britain, and because people can't believe that this, the richest and mightiest country in the world, might run out of money and shut down its own government.
Overseas, there will be little impact. Embassies will stay open. American troops remain on duty. The initial reaction in money markets has been minimal, a shrug, but still an embarrassment for Washington. The U.S. hasn't defaulted on its loans, and that doesn't appear to be imminent. But Standard & Poor's, which rates creditworthiness, warned last week that the global capital market's unquestioned faith in the United States has, to some degree, been diminished. It's important to remember that all of this really boils down to the larger battle looming over the U.S. budget. The Republican Congress insists on a balanced federal budget in 7 years. This will mean cutting countless programs, many popular and politically important, like the nation's medical care for the elderly, Medicare, and benefits for veterans, farmers, and students. President Clinton has said he wants a balanced budget as well.
I know the American people want us to balance the budget with common sense and without bitterness.
But he says he wants to cut spending in different ways. And since his economic figures are more optimistic, he says there's less to cut. Congress wants to give more to the states. The president wants to retain more federal control. And the architect of the Republican Revolution, House Speaker Newt Gingrich, calls it a titanic struggle.
We've tended to focus on the political showdown, the standoff between Newt Gingrich and Bob Dole on Capitol Hill and Bill Clinton in the White House, and who will win this blame game that the two are playing out.
And never forget the underlying force in all this fighting, politics. The stakes are huge. The 1996 presidential election. Claire Shipman, CNN, the White House.
As Claire indicated, there's been plenty of finger-pointing over the budget mess, but little movement toward a compromise. More meetings between the White House and congressional Republicans failed again to end the stalemate.
It is particularly unfortunate that the Republican Congress has brought us to this juncture because, after all, we share a central goal, balancing the federal budget. We must lift the burden of debt that threatens the future of our children and grandchildren, and we must free up money so that the private sector can invest, create jobs, and our economy can continue its healthy growth.
But I think the important thing is, if the president now says, as he said before, you want a balanced budget in 5 years, and 10 years, and 9 years, and 8 years, and 7 years, or never. He's on record for all of those. And we just suggest that he settle on the 7-year plan and get on board, and we'll be able to work this out.
The last time a budget fight forced the United States government to shut down was in 1990, and it lasted only 1 day.
A team from the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation has arrived in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, scene of Monday's bomb attack on a military training center. 5 Americans were among 6 people killed in the explosion. Some of the 60 people wounded remain in critical condition. The U.S. Embassy says neither of 2 claims of responsibility issued Monday have yet been verified. The embassy is urging U.S. citizens in Saudi Arabia to be extremely cautious and vigilant. Meanwhile, Swiss authorities have launched a high-level investigation into the killing of a diplomat from Egypt. Ahmed Allah Nazmi was gunned down Monday near an apartment garage in Geneva. Authorities say he was shot 6 times, and they are handling the case as a possible assassination. The diplomat was assigned as a commercial counselor to the Egyptian delegation to the World Trade Organization. The acting Israeli prime minister says troops can be withdrawn from West Bank towns before Christmas. Within sight of Tel Aviv, Shimon Peres toured areas set for Palestinian rule. He welcomed reports that the militant group Hamas will take part in Palestinian elections. Monday, Israeli troops pulled out of the West Bank town of Jenin a week ahead of schedule. In Israel, opposition leaders agreed that Mr. Peres should form a government. He has been the caretaker prime minister since the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin.
After about another 90 minutes of sleep, the crew of the U.S. Space Shuttle Atlantis prepares to rendezvous with the Russian space station. Astronauts use the shuttle's mobile arm to install a docking tunnel in the cargo bay. That will help Atlantis couple with the Mir space station. The Americans and Russians are scheduled to link up in just over 7 hours. It's been nearly 25 years since United States President Richard Nixon declared war on cancer. Ahead on WorldView, cancer experts and cancer survivors gather to issue a re-declaration.
In Moscow, Russian politics gets an infusion of American rap.
And students at a poor school in Thailand come up with a creative way to put food on the table.
Our WorldView weather opens up with our look at predicted high temperatures for Wednesday across the United States. Very chilly in the east, as you can see, as the nor'easter continues to move right up the eastern seaboard. Very cold temperatures coming down through the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes area. Highs only in the 30s and the 40s in most places. Now in the west, it remains relatively warm. As a matter of fact, yesterday we were looking at record-setting high temperatures throughout much of the west. Cooler than that on Wednesday, but still much, much warmer than you're seeing in the eastern half of the nation. Speaking of the eastern half of the nation, the low-pressure center known as the nor'easter continues to move northward, but by Wednesday morning should be inland, and when they move inland, they do weaken somewhat, but we're still looking at snowfall stretched from the eastern Great Lakes area down through the Appalachians into the south, rainfall in the coastal areas of the northeast, and strong and gusty winds. An area of moisture rolling out of the plain states down through the middle Mississippi River Valley has a bit of snow and rain associated with it. Much of the west remains dry, but a new cold front does approach the Pacific Northwest with a bit of rainfall. As we move on now to Europe, widespread cloudiness is expected through much of Europe, and certainly morning fog in many places. An area of low pressure is approaching the region of Greece and will continue to move eastward with rainfall, maybe some snowfall associated with it too. As we move on now to Asia, a cold front is clearing Japan and reaches back to the coast of China. And that's the latest look at your WorldView weather. I'm Flip Spice.
In every number, there is a question. Is there life after retirement? How far will your company go? In every number, there is a question. And if you have the vision to see it, an answer. You see numbers, we see opportunities.
My daughter used to think fish just came from the supermarket.
You know, my son used to wait for rainbows, but now we go looking for them.
I know they learn all about the world in school, but now we can show it to them.
Isn't it amazing how opening one door can open up so many others? Ford Explorer, because the world's too big to be left unexplored.
That's a very powerful credit card.
My Chase card?
Now your Chase card can do something no other credit card can do.
Like what?
Get you 5% savings when you use it at your favorite store.
My Chase card can do that?
Only if you enroll in Chase Retail Rewards, our new program that can save you 5% on your charges at your favorite store.
I pick the store?
Choose from over 100 great retail names. Just call 1-800 850-CHASE to apply.
Then what happens?
Just use your card there. Every month, Chase will automatically deduct 5% of your charges at that store from your statement.
Automatically?
Automatically.
Even if the item was on sale?
You still get an extra 5%.
Suppose I want to switch stores. I might redo my kitchen next spring.
You can choose a new store every 6 months if you'd like.
You know, the way I shop, this could save me real money. How do I sign up?
Call now to enroll. If you don't have a Chase card, call now to apply for the only card that gives you Chase retail rewards. Chase, bringing you ultimate values.
There are many prescription pain medicines, and a doctor can prescribe any of them. Yet 82% of doctors surveyed have prescribed Arudis. And now, for the first time, it's available in a non-prescription strength. New Arudis KT. It's so potent, just 25 milligrams is as effective as 400 milligrams of Motrin IV, 440 of Aleve, or 1,000 milligrams of extra-strength Tylenol. New Arudis KT, the potent medicine for pain.
Tonight on Larry King Live, his first interview since the assassination of his partner in peace, Shimon Peres, the Prime Minister of Israel. Tonight, Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
United States Secretary of State Warren Christopher is turning up the pressure on negotiators at the Bosnian peace talks in Ohio. Christopher met Tuesday one-on-one with the leaders of Bosnia, Croatia, and Serbia. CNN's Steve Hurst reports.
Secretary of State Warren Christopher brought the full weight of U.S. pressure to bear on the snarled Bosnia peace talks, aiming to undo deep territorial differences. Sources close to the talks here at the windswept Wright-Patterson Air Force Base said, absent a detailed agreement, Balkan leaders were pushing to sign a vague overall pact by week's end, with details of the map dividing Bosnia to be worked out later. But U.S. officials said they would not let that happen.
We're not looking to have some kind of a bare-bones agreement where you fill in all the important details later or answer all the important questions, difficult questions later.
The 2-week-old talks have produced 2 collateral deals, but so far no progress central to solving the major dispute between the Bosnian government and the rebel Serbs. Christopher delayed a key mission to Japan for the gathering of the Asia and Pacific nations by a day, trying to kick fire out of the embers of the talks that are being held in secret here, an hour by plane from the nation's capital. But without progress, U.S. diplomats say they won't let up on the pressure to get the Balkan leaders to trudge onward toward a peace deal and to stay put at the Ohio Air Base.
If they want peace, and if they want to resolve their problems, they've got to stay. If they leave, they won't be able to resolve their problems. There's the incentive. It's called self-interest.
So the labors toward peace move on behind the high fences here near Dayton. Balkan leaders eager to get home before the full onset of winter. Negotiators eager to get a deal in place for the Thanksgiving holiday. The White House hopes the deal will be ready for a Paris peace conference late this month or early next to coincide with the president's trip to Europe. In this season of jammed schedules, perhaps the calendar will be incentive enough to agree. Steve Hurst, CNN, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base.
In Russia, President Boris Yeltsin, despite reports to the contrary, insists he is in charge. Mr. Yeltsin appeared on television Tuesday from a hospital in Moscow. It was his second such appearance since his latest bout of heart trouble late last month. This time, Mr. Yeltsin looked and sounded more robust.
The recovery goes on normally. The United States media, as well as our Moskovsky Komsomolets newspaper, which is a communist mouthpiece, have spread silly speculations that I need an operation. This is rubbish. I don't need anything like that. What I do need is to take some time, maybe a little more than last summer, for recovery. And the recovery will be absolutely complete. My health will be as good as it was before my illness.
Mr. Yeltsin is not expected to return to work at the Kremlin before December. Russian parliamentary elections are scheduled for December 17th. Well, time was when political rulers in Moscow frowned on American pop music as decadent, even counter-revolutionary. Here's the latest measure of how much things have changed. On Monday, Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin used a pop performance to drum up support among Russian youth. On stage, U.S. rapper MC Hammer. Will the notes yield the votes? One fan said if Chernomyrdin invited MC Hammer, he must be worth a look.
When our program returns, an American accused of a cross-country killing spree may have reached the end of the road.
This is Janie Sanchez. This is the actual phone number called by Janie Sanchez, the number for Fannie Mae, the nation's largest source of funds for mortgage lenders. These are the actual free guides Fannie Mae sent to Janie Sanchez. Step-by-step information on how to choose a mortgage and buy a home of your own. This is the actual home that Janie and her husband purchased.
Hi, honey.
And that's her actual husband. Be like Janie. Call Fannie Mae.
This is our heritage and this is our true glory. We are a people, I tell you, that is just beginning its high adventure on this continent. Animated by the destiny of greatness, can think and can act and can do greatly.
They've called this the American century, and there's much to be proud of.
This nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. That the torch has been passed to a new generation of Americans.
The great challenge at the end of this century is the same as it was at the beginning. To work together and make this a better world for our children.
Since we have come so far, who shall be rash enough to set limits on our future progress? Who shall say that since we have gone so far, we can go no farther?
The day ends. 10,000 workers head earthward, down through the 110 stories, leaving behind any thought of what will become of the 4 tons of paper they threw away today. Not to worry. A good recycling plan can overcome any obstacle, even the world's tallest. What business do we have saying we help the environment? That is our business.
Perhaps it's because we offer our business class passengers complimentary limousines, sleeper seats with up to 15 inches of extra legroom, and personal video screens at every seat. Or it may just be our refreshingly different British personality. Whatever the reason, it seems we put a few noses just a bit out of joint. Upper Class by Virgin Atlantic Airways.
Our worldview of North America begins with the capture of a suspected serial killer in the United States. A 33-year-old Ohio man pleaded innocent Tuesday to lesser charges after leading Kentucky police on a high-speed chase Monday. Glenn Rogers is being held without bond, suspected of killing women in California, Florida, Louisiana, and Mississippi. He is also wanted for questioning and murders in 2 other states. Police are describing Rogers as a charmer who sweet-talked his victims into helping him. Off the coast of Puerto Rico, one of the world's largest passenger ships ran aground Tuesday. The Norwegian ship Sovereign of the Seas was carrying more than 3,100 people when it struck bottom, entering San Juan Bay. No injuries or damage were reported. The water there is about 14 feet deep, and officials don't know why the ship ran aground. Tugboats pulled it free in about 2 hours.
Cancer may not be the leading cause of death around the world, but it's close. According to the World Health Organization, 16% of the people who died worldwide in 1993 died of cancer. In other words, about 8 million people. On Tuesday, cancer experts and cancer survivors gathered in Washington, calling for a new commitment to what's become known as the war against cancer. CNN's Andrew Holtz reports.
People from all ranks of the forces fighting cancer came together, from the head of the National Cancer Institute and his predecessors to U.S. senators, researchers, and cancer survivors. Michael Milken, himself a prostate cancer patient and founder of an organization dedicated to finding a cure for prostate cancer, sounded an alarm.
We are in danger of snatching defeat from the jaws of victory by becoming fatigued, unfocused, complacent,
Milken called for international funding of cancer research, pointing out that during the Gulf War, the Allies spent twice as much as the U.S. has spent on the war on cancer. Transforming scientific discoveries into practical treatments is a daunting task, and the National Cancer Summit heard calls for new ways of coordinating academic and private sector efforts and speeding regulatory review.
And money alone without organization and strategy are not going to get you there. And if the expectations are that somehow the miracle is just waiting to happen, if only we throw some money at it, or if only we get a general to lead us forward.
But fewer than 1 out of 5 worthy research projects gets funded now. The leader of the U.S. Human Genome Project called that no way to build a dream team of cancer investigators.
If you're going to have this football team that you're going to try to put together that's going to win all the games, and you bring them in and tell them, well, maybe we'll pay you $15,000 a year, and if you have a bad game, we're going to kick you out. How successful are you going to be? That's what we're telling our young scientists.
Some speakers argued that many of the soldiers in the war on cancer can't get their hands on up-to-date weapons, and that the most rapid progress would come from applying what's already known. For example, 5,000 women a year in the U.S. die of cervical cancer, even though doctors say pap smear testing could prevent all of those cancers.
Part of the reason is that people don't have access to health care. Another part has to do with the education of people so that they will take advantage of the resources that we have to fight this disease.
Investigators blame cigarette smoking for most of the increase in cancer deaths in recent decades.
Well, there's no question that cancer prevention in the long run will be the most cost-effective form of cancer research, because the prevention of cancer is absolute cure.
Many of the recommendations have been made before. Their advocates know it won't be easy to win greater commitments to the war on cancer, even as government, insurers, and employers are trying to limit spending on health care and research. Andrew Holtz, CNN, Washington.
The United Nations tribunal investigating last year's mass killing in Rwanda has gotten an unexpected boost. Hundreds of suspects are believed to be living in Kenya, and the once hesitant government of Kenya now has agreed to cooperate with the tribunal. CNN's Gary Stryker reports.
A year and a half after massacres killed hundreds of thousands in Rwanda, the United Nations tribunal investigating the genocide is now gathering evidence to prosecute those responsible.
Our first indictment will be out with certainty before the end of December, and indictments are going to start coming out regularly in the first months of next year.
Many suspects implicated in the genocide have already been arrested in some countries, and in a major reversal of policy last week, Kenya's government agreed to cooperate with the tribunal.
It enjoys our full support, and it will enjoy our total cooperation with it.
Recently, that cooperation was in jeopardy. Last month, Kenya's president, Daniel Arap Moi, said his government would refuse to hand over suspects to the tribunal and would in fact arrest any members of the tribunal if they should come to Kenya. Statements causing serious concern about how the tribunal could function if Kenya would not allow interrogation and arrest of suspects on its territory. As many as 400 suspects are living as refugees in Nairobi. Some of them discovered by a CNN crew earlier this year, apparently in the act of negotiating to buy weapons from an arms dealer. Rwandan Hutu refugees are known to be training and rearming for a planned invasion of Rwanda to overthrow the mainly Tutsi government. Critics say President Moi is sympathetic to Hutu refugees in Kenya, that he was a close friend of the former hardline Hutu president of Rwanda, Juvenal Habyarimana.
It is not a secret, it is very well known that they had common business interests in Kenya, both in Kenya and Rwanda.
Habyarimana was killed when his aircraft was shot down, triggering the massacres against minority Tutsis and moderate Hutus. Moi has complained that the tribunal does not have the mandate to investigate who was responsible for killing Habyarimana or to probe the causes of the conflict between the Hutus and Tutsis. But the tribunal's prosecutor says he's now confident the Kenya government will not stand in the way of his investigations.
I think time's of the essence, and I think 1996 must be the year of massive investigations, because justice must be done swiftly.
Whether justice will be done depends to a large extent on Kenya's willing cooperation. According to sources in Rwanda's government, among the refugees here are some of the most senior civil and military leaders, in the hierarchy of Hutu extremists who masterminded the genocide. Gary Stryker, CNN, Nairobi.
A taste of success in Thailand. Some of the nation's poorest students are raising their voices in song to put food on their tables. That story and more coming up on WorldView.
It started with the idea of giving truckers a better two-way radio system. Then with a war chest of $3,000, they decided to take on the largest company on earth. When the smoke cleared, MCI had changed telecommunications forever. Where in today's world do you find such aggressive, fast-growing companies? Actually, there's a list of them printed every day. NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
Tonight, government shutdown in the crossfire. What will it take to settle the budget debate? Tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
Sprint Sense International gives you great rates to countries all over the world. What more could you want?
How about some cash?
Cash would be good. Yes, some cash back.
Presenting Sprint Sense International with something new, cash back. Call now for these simply great rates on calls to countries all around the world. Plus, get rewarded with 10% cash back for every dollar you spend.
For me, that would be at least $100 a year.
Cash back on all my calls to Ireland.
There's no limit to the amount of cash back you can earn. Month after month, you'll see your cash add up, so it pays to stay with Sprint. Call now and we'll even switch you for free.
What about domestic calls?
You'll get cash back on domestic calls too. And with Sprint Sense International, you'll get a great 10 cents a minute rate on every state-to-state call. So call now.
Cash back would be great.
Good idea.
Cash back. It's one phrase that's understood around the world. Get simply great rates now and 10% cash back every year. Call now. 1-800-227-2353.
Shimon Peres on Larry King Live tonight.
It's a problem faced by poor schools around the world. How to feed hungry students when funds are low or non-existent. At one school in Thailand, 700 students are fed on the equivalent of less than $50 per day. But as CNN's Tom Mantier reports, 2/3 of those youngsters would go without if it weren't for some creative thinking.
This is one of the poorer schools in Thailand. Located in Buriram, there are nearly 700 students enrolled here. Like many schools in poor farming communities, the government provides funds for a free lunch. The problem is there are more students than money. The entire school is fed on what amounts to less than $50 a day. About 2/3 of these youngsters would go without were it not for some creative thinking by school officials. 11-year-old Taritip Pitaksong helps out in the kitchen with other children. They prepare the daily meal. Most of these children have to bring rice to school. There isn't enough money to provide it. To put food on the table, the students perform. The children are transformed with makeup and costumes to look older than they actually are. Several times a month, students from the school take the stage at nearby villages. The troupe makes anywhere from $200 to $800 a night.
It helps them gain confidence and money. It helps both the school and the students. For the school, it provides for things we simply don't have.
Tips provided to the student singers are put into the lunchroom kitty. A small portion is kept by the students to help with tuition. On stage, they have to compete on this night with the mosquitoes by the millions. The teachers play the instruments, and the children belt out the songs. They even have a record out. 12-year-old Nongnut Chai Wong is one of the featured performers. The Laotian folk song she's singing is all too realistic. It's about a poor young singer. The next morning in the classroom, little Nongnut blends in with her classmates. No longer a star, just another student.
I want to be a doctor when I grow up, not a singer.
But the reality is she will become a construction worker, just like her parents. They have left the village to earn a living in the city. Farming no longer puts enough food on the table at home. But for now, at least, her singing helps her classmates and pays for the simple bowl of soup served in the school cafeteria. Putting food on the table is not the prime reason the school has the singing program. There are few expectations that many of these youngsters will become professional singers. What is at issue here is something called motivation, taking children with little chance of success and make them want to be successful. Tom Intier, CNN, Buriram, Thailand.
Nearly 5 years after the war with Iraq, the Desert Storm Coalition is still in business. Also, a fateful mix-up that has bound two families in a mutual nightmare. Details just ahead. In the headlines, talks aimed at ending the United States budget deadlock have finished for this day with no progress to report. White House Chief of Staff Leon Panetta says negotiations are at an impasse. Hundreds of thousands of federal workers were sent home Tuesday after Congress and the President failed to reach a compromise on government spending. For the moment, both sides are blaming each other for the impasse.
Mr. President, we are not interested in giving you a continuing resolution unless you are willing to express in some way that you too are for a balanced budget within 7 years, and you can do it however you please. We don't ask you to tell us how.
What we have seen over the past week and over the past weekend is not encouraging. Enormous damage has been done to the parties and to the institution. Today and tomorrow, we face a shutdown of the federal government. A default for the first time in history of our nation looms on the horizon. No one can be proud of such a distinction.
Within the past hour, Treasury Secretary Robert Rubin said he will take steps Wednesday to keep the United States government from going into default. He did not elaborate.
At the Pentagon, a top official says the U.S. has ordered tighter security at U.S. military installations in the Middle East. 19 FBI officials have arrived in Saudi Arabia to investigate Monday's bombing at a military training center. 5 Americans were among 6 people killed in the attack. 2 little-known groups claim to have carried out the bombing in Riyadh. U.S. officials say neither claim has been verified. Soldiers from the United States, Britain, France, Egypt, and the United Arab Emirates are wrapping up 3 weeks of Middle Eastern field exercises. CNN's Gail Young reports from Cairo on Operation Bright Star.
The U.S. military says Bright Star 95 is the largest coalition exercise since Desert Storm. Over 50,000 troops are dropping in, most of them from the United States and Egypt, waging mock battles across the Egyptian landscape. Many of the U.S. troops are veterans of the Gulf War and of interventions in Haiti and Somalia. Some may be headed to ex-Yugoslavia this winter.
There's a good possibility that those soldiers have been there, done that, and doing it again.
The United States and Egypt have held Bright Star every other year since 1980. But since the Gulf War, the mission has expanded from a training exercise to a demonstration of firepower aimed at Iraq.
We didn't design the exercise to send a message, but I'm sure it does, and we hope it does, because the coalition comes together just as it did in Desert Storm. We demonstrate that we can work together, we're interoperable, and we can fight together. So it's not unnoticed throughout the area.
This year, Britain, France, and the United Arab Emirates are joining the war exercises for the first time. But Egypt's massive military is providing the record number 33,000 troops. The participating countries pick up the hefty tab of tens of millions of dollars. Organizers say Bright Star gives the coalition valuable experience, a chance to train over vast distances, and an opportunity to flex some muscle in an often volatile region. Gail Young, CNN, Cairo.
The cases of more than 500 American servicemen missing in Vietnam will never be fully resolved. The U.S. Defense Department says 2 decades after the Vietnam War ended, those men are dead, but their remains cannot be recovered. But the Pentagon says it will continue working to resolve the case of 1,500 other men missing in Southeast Asia since the Vietnam War. This past weekend, British teenager Leah Betts experimented with a drug called ecstasy. And now, doctors say she may not have long to live.
When we return, we'll have the latest on her condition and talk with an expert about the dangers of this so-called designer drug.
This is WorldView Money, a sell-off in tech stocks and the budget showdown in Washington depressing the overall market. The Dow Jones Industrial slipping 1 point to close at 48.71, snapping a streak of 4 straight record sessions. The Dow had been up 17 points earlier. The broader and secondary markets also finished lower, with the NASDAQ composite tumbling almost 18 points. 3M stock bucking the downward trend. It jumped 2.5 to 61.5. Wall Street applauding the company's latest effort to cut costs. 3M says it will eliminate 5,000 jobs and shut down its audio and videotape business, a field the company helped invent almost a half-century ago. 3M also will spin off its data storage and imaging systems units to shareholders. October was a soft month for the nation's retailers, sparking new concerns about the upcoming holiday shopping season. Retail sales fell 0.2% last month, the first decline in 3 months. Meanwhile, a mixed bag of earnings results from some of the nation's top retailers. Walmart, the biggest chain, reporting a 4% increase in third-quarter profits, but JCPenney suffered a more than 12% drop in earnings, while Home Depot reported a near 25% jump in their profits. Former Barings Bank trader Nick Leeson could soon be on his way back to Singapore. After 9 months of legal wrangling, Germany Tuesday approved his extradition. He could be handed over to authorities as soon as next week. Leeson's alleged unauthorized trading activities at Barings' Singapore office led to $1.4 billion in losses and the bank's collapse. For a wrap-up of the day's business news, tune into Moneyline with Lou Dobbs at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Tonight's guest, former Federal Reserve Governor Wayne Angell. He'll talk about the budget showdown in Washington and much more. I'm John Metaxas in New York with WorldView Money.
Thanks to Sprint Business, now the world is flat. Introducing flat rate pricing for small businesses on all your long distance, even for Sprint 800 service. Enhanced fax and cellular long distance. One low flat rate for everything all over the country, so you know just what you're paying.
Now that's simple.
Call now for flat rate pricing. 1-800-827-3700. Call Sprint Business.
Now look, the meeting starts at 2. That means we gotta be in Toledo by 1:45.
Well, look, we're not gonna make it.
Hold on, you turn here, it takes us right into Toledo.
My man Jim, saving the day.
You're sure this is right?
Oh, yeah, I go this way all the time.
Traveling's an adventure. Where you stay shouldn't be. Fairfield Inn by Marriott.
Now you can give the steel doors in your home the rich look of wood with Czar wood stains and finishes.
Czar does more than it ever could, 'cause Czar is good for more than just wood.
Wipe Czar on a steel door, then use a graining tool to create a natural wood finish. Wipe on a second coat and it really starts to look like wood. Then protect the finish with Czar polyurethane. Give your steel doors a rich look of wood. Use Czar wood stains and finishes.
Czar is good for more than just wood. Czar.
5 years ago, did you imagine you'd be doing this one day?
How could I? It took you 3 weeks to call me back.
It was a test. We'd like to get married.
How did I do?
Tuesday night NBA on TNT. In the playoffs, the Magic made Chicago disappear. Now, the Bulls are back with something up their own sleeve. Bulls Magic, tonight at 8 on TNT.
The death toll from one of Nepal's worst avalanche disasters in decades is rising. Rescue workers have found 7 more bodies near Kanchenjunga, the world's 3rd highest mountain. The death toll stands at 49. More than 400 people have been rescued near Mount Everest. Hundreds of trekkers have been stranded in the Himalayan mountains due to heavy snowfall. November is the peak season for trekkers in Nepal.
A British girl who took the drug ecstasy on her 18th birthday party, Leah Betts, today continues to lie in a coma as doctors try to learn more about the drug's effects. Meanwhile, police continue their hunt for the dealer. Andrew Simmons has this report.
A consultant leading the medical team trying to save Leah says laboratory tests show the tablet she took wasn't contaminated. He believes the drug ecstasy on its own caused her collapse, but isn't certain.
Nobody has got a huge experience of ecstasy as far as I can tell. But certainly there have been previous episodes of sudden collapse in a similar fashion following the taking of ecstasy. Abnormal reactions or strange reactions to ecstasy are known. The reasons for that are not. Why one person does this and another person doesn't. So I cannot explain it.
Leah is still in a coma, her condition critical. This is the type of tablet she took, called Apple, one of the stronger variants of ecstasy. Police say the harrowing appeal made by her parents has been a big help in their hunt for the drug supplier.
Yes, it's certainly opened up the floodgates, as far as public interest goes. I think it's helped the inquiry, obviously. People have come forward, and I think it's also been a public service. They've acted very courageously.
Fellow students at Leah's sixth form college in Basildon also paid tribute to her parents. A friend said there were strong feelings in the college.
We're just very angry, we just want to know who, sold all this stuff. We just feel very shocked and hurt, just praying for all of us.
Others spoke of why they turned down offers of the drug.
I've seen what's happened to other people and I've never taken. One of my mates got spiked at a party with an E and he was in a coma for ages.
I know a few people that do take it and they've gone really seriously ill, but I would never touch it.
Mr. and Mrs. Betts are spending another night at Leah's bedside, hoping for some sign of improvement. They've been inundated with messages of support and have issued a statement saying thank you to the public. Andrew Simmons, News at 10, Chelmsford in Essex.
Earlier today, I talked about the drug ecstasy with Dr. John Henry from the National Poison Information Service. Dr. Henry has written an article on ecstasy in the British medical journal, The Lancet. Dr. Henry, it has been sold as a danger-free, pain-free drug, yet you have written a report which is called Ecstasy and the Dance of Death. Just how dangerous is it?
Ecstasy is relatively safe. Every weekend, 500,000 people in Britain use this drug. And there are a very small number of people who come to complications. I believe that there are about 30 to 50 deaths each year. That's far less than for alcohol and heroin and other drugs. So in some ways it's safe, but it can kill.
And what about long-term effects?
The long-term effects of ecstasy concern me very much. Some people develop paranoia, panic attacks, depression very shortly after using the drug. Those who don't have any severe adverse effects still have problems because they develop problems with their brain chemistry. This means that these people are at risk of depression and suicide in later life.
It has been called also the drug of our times. Why do you believe? Is it generational, and just how widespread is its use?
It's been called the drug of our times because it's caught on. It's become as much a part of life as alcohol, cigarettes, and the motor car. The reason for this is that although it was used in the United States for a number of years, people just took it on the beach, at home, at a club, at a party. Over here, it got incorporated into the acid house dance culture. And suddenly people found, well, it's a dance drug. It heightens all sensations. It makes everything seem more real and more immediate, and it gives them the energy to keep dancing for hours.
So you're saying there's a difference in the way it's used here and in the United States?
Oh, very much so.
Is that why there is a difference in the fact that there have been more fatalities here?
Yes. One of the problems about ecstasy is that it puts you on a high and it cuts off body signals so that you don't feel tired, you don't feel thirsty, and they keep going for 6 or 8 hours. Now, a marathon runner can only go for 4 hours and needs to drink every couple of kilometers. People take ecstasy, they don't feel the need to drink, and they just keep going until they collapse.
Why is it fatal for some people and not for others?
It's very difficult to know why it's fatal for some people but not for others. If you read the newspapers, you find that some people, for example, go on a run. Army recruits go on a march for 20 miles in full uniform in hot weather. One of them collapses and dies. Why that one collapsed and dies, nobody really knows. Maybe there's some very small defect of their body chemistry that enables them to carry on in normal life, but when you put them under an extreme stress, they collapse. They can't cope.
You're effectively saying it's not the drug that kills them, it's their own personal chemistry? Or a combination of the two?
A combination of the two. It's partly somebody's own body chemistry. It's partly the circumstances under which they use it. And those two things together mean that some people can keep dancing for 8 hours, and 1 or 2 people out of thousands just find it too much for them and they collapse.
There has been recently, especially in this country, controversy over additives to the drug ecstasy. Is that a problem?
All kinds of things can be added, especially when petty crime starts manufacturing tablets of one kind or another. They'll put in anything they can get hold of. But it's my belief that ecstasy is the poison. Ecstasy is the thing that causes the problems. You can't blame the additives if somebody collapses with heat stroke after dancing for 8 hours.
What's the answer?
Some people would say that the drug has to be made legal, but it just cannot be made legal. If you try to put this drug through the same process as putting a new drug on the market, an antidepressant or an antibiotic, a pain reliever, it just would never get on the market because it wouldn't pass the tests.
All right, Dr. Henry, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
When WorldView continues, we'll tell you about an extraordinary case involving 2 mothers, 2 newborn babies, and a hospital mix-up that was not discovered until years later.
I'm Nick Charles, and your worldview of sport begins with the insurance fraud trial of boxing promoter Don King. The jury deliberated all of Tuesday, but has yet to reach a verdict. The U.S. government has accused King of altering a contract for a 1991 bout involving Julio Cesar Chavez and making a false claim to Lloyd's of London. Each of the 9-count indictments carry a 5-year prison sentence and a $250,000 fine. The postseason baseball awards just keep on coming, and Tuesday, fireballing left-hander Randy Johnson of the Seattle Mariners was named Cy Young Award winner in the American League. The award is given to the best pitcher in the league, and Johnson verified that, winning 18 games, losing only 2, and leading the major leagues in strikeouts, along the way to an overpowering season-long performance. Finally, in tennis, American Pete Sampras, who just recently reclaimed the #1 ranking in the world, is attempting to close the year on top. Sampras Tuesday defeated Russian Evgeny Kafelnikov in straight sets at the ATP Championships in Frankfurt, Germany. Meanwhile, Thomas Muster, who's won a dozen titles this year, saw his chances of finishing #1 for the year evaporate. The Austrian was beaten by American Michael Chen. With your worldview of sports, I'm Nick Charles.
A company most people never heard of is changing the way we fight cancer and kidney failure. By inducing the body to produce blood cells, chemotherapy and anemia patients are gaining new strength. Helping to grow blood cells helped Amgen become the world's largest independent biotech company. Where do you find companies with such pioneering spirit? Actually, there's a list of them printed every day. NASDAQ, the stock market for the next 100 years.
Perhaps it's because we offer our business class passengers complimentary limousines, sleeper seats with up to 15 inches of extra legroom, and personal video screens at every seat. Or it may just be our refreshingly different British personality. Whatever the reason, it seems we put a few noses just a bit out of joint. Upper Class by Virgin Atlantic Airways.
You may not think of wastewater as being good for fishing, but every day we clean millions of gallons of wastewater and return it to our rivers, streams, and bays, even cleaner than these waterways themselves. ensuring there should always be some big ones for the catching. Depending, of course, on your tackle and experience. What business do we have saying we help the environment? That is our business.
Most people know us as the inventors of a wonder drug, but we also help make fabrics stronger, homes more energy efficient, animals healthier, and we're helping to lead the way in biotech research.
So much good we can do for each other. Oh, what a world it can be.
Bayer. In healthcare, chemicals, and imaging technologies, we cure more headaches than you think.
Oh. Is this for me?
Let's give that back to Santa.
Not so fast. I've added a few things to my list.
New Long John Silver's country-style popcorn shrimp. Bite-sized shrimp with fries, just $1.99.
Okay, kid, hand over the shrimp.
One more thing. On Dasher, on Dasher.
Just hit it.
Right now, collect a holiday crystal for just 99 cents each.
Tonight on Larry King Live, his first interview since the assassination of his partner in peace, Shimon Peres, the Prime Minister of Israel. Tonight, Larry King Live, 9 Eastern on CNN.
From South Africa, this story about a mix-up that forever changed the lives of two families. Two babies were mistakenly switched at birth, and 6 years later, the families are still struggling to cope. Mark Austin has more.
Two mothers and two sons brought together by extraordinary circumstances. A nightmare story that began when Meg Clinton Parker underwent paternity suit blood tests and found that not only was the father not the father of Gavin, but there was no possibility that she was the mother. Her own son, Robin, was actually with an unknowing Sandra Dawkins. Their babies swapped accidentally by nurses at this hospital minutes after birth. A mistake not discovered until the children were 2 years old.
Every time I looked at him, I sat and sobbed my eyes out for hours on end because he's a victim of circumstance. It's something that happened that nobody asked for.
I think it's probably changed our whole lives, and it will forever. Both have two children, one can't live with us, and we struggle with that. So obviously it's been an emotional battle. I mean, it's been 5 years now, and it's been 5 years of hell, I think.
Both say there's no question of giving up the child they've bonded with.
You look into those little blue eyes and you think, oh, he's not mine. But he is mine because I fought with him from the very minute he was given to me. I fought with him through all his problems. I'm still fighting with him, so he's mine, that's that.
I've always said I've wanted them both, but I'm not about to walk in and steal.
Psychologists say they face a lifetime of mental trauma.
This is ongoing forever. You know, as long as the children lives and as long as the woman lives, there's going to be problems.
In the court case just concluded, the mothers were each awarded £30,000 damages. But apart from the psychological problems, it's also a legal minefield.
At any one time, either one of the mothers can demand the return of her natural child, and there'd be very little that the other mother could do to frustrate a claim like that. If either mother were to die without making a will, the natural child would have a claim against the state in preference to the child that's been raised as her own.
What we're trying to achieve is that they get the same opportunities and try and provide the same sort of home.
But they say they'll never get over the anger.
No matter what religion or creed, colour, your universal right is your child. And they took that away from us.
Mark Austin, News at 10, South Africa.
That concludes this edition of WorldView. In Atlanta, I'm Bernard Shaw.
Good night, Bernie. In London, I'm Hilary Bowker. Thanks for joining us. And we leave you tonight with something of an annual event here in London. That's when the Christmas lights on Regent Street get switched on.